I'm pulling up the DeviantArt. It has all my art in the gallery, which says 1.7K, 1.7 thousand deviations, pieces of art. And I'm going to go to the very first one and explain what it's all about.
Okie dokie.
And just go to the end here. Here it is.
Ooh.
This is experience non-quantifiable. Which is what
Did you hand draw a portion of this?
all of it's hand drawn. It's done with ballpoint ink. Just like a ballpoint pen, a cheap one, and a poster board. Like the kind you'd make a protest sign out of.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Which is too bad because it's full of, I think it's acidic and it won't last very long. So whoever has it now. Like, I don't have this in my possession.
What did you do?
I gave it to Goodwill.
Wow.
And someone grabbed it right away.
Really?
Yeah. And
Well,
it took me a month to do this.
the images in here, is it mostly like doodling, or they're like
It's
it
all
looks like
doodling.
there's eyeballs? Are they actually eyeballs?
Well, some of them, yeah, I suppose are intentional. There's probably more intentional drawing.
Like, is this supposed to be a tree?
No, or blood vessels, or like some type of branching. Yeah, branching like a tree.
Is that writing underneath it?
Yeah, ones and zeros.
Is that because you're a nerd?
Yeah. It's because of computers. That's what it is. And there's one part where it looks like a scarecrow, but it's upside down. You have to turn it upside down to actually see it that way. And there's no real right side up. I kind of like rotated it as I was making it, so.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tedious process. I did not really enjoy making this one.
How long did it take you?
A month. It took me a month to draw it. I kind of carried it around with me everywhere.
A big poster card?
Yeah. And then I would go to people's apartments in Pennsylvania and draw it.
That's cool.
My friends.
So when was this made?
Well, I posted it the posting date is not the date I made it. It was posted May 31st, 2013. But
Can you read what you wrote?
oh yeah. An experience lived in infamy, one that I will never forget. That day in February 2003 when I lost it. Off the deep end, I was 18 years old. I'm now 32. Well, now I'm 36, but I can still remember how strange I felt as I slipped deeper and deeper into a point of no return. I will never be the same person since that day. As a series of events unfolds, my brain chemistry morphs into something unnatural, and consequences ensue. Friends are discarded and lost. As I deal with the aftermath, a life changed forever. I cannot go back. I cannot be normal again. Experience non-quantifiable. Now, I would reframe that now. I mean...
About what's normal?
Yeah, like... Yeah, what's normal anyways, but like, it seems like I was kind of, like, depressed when I wrote that or something.
When you wrote this, were you wishing you could go back to before your bipolar?
No. I mean, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. That's probably, like... the desire to reveal what this experience and for what it is, you know. And I think the art does a good job of conveying that.
So this art is very chaotic. Is that because that's how you felt when you were 18?
Yeah.
So you meant for it to be very, very
chaotic.
congested.
But I didn't actually plan it. I just started drawing. And that's what came out. And then it's like that a lot with a lot of my art. I go forward with the art, and later I interpret it to mean something to me. But I don't have that intention going into the art.
But when you were making this art, were you thinking back on that time, or was it not till after?
No, my mind was just drifting all over the place. I was just lost in it. Just lost in it. It's like therapeutic.
So it wasn't until it was done that you realized it tapped into those memories?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I actually named it something else, I think, first. I don't remember what I named it, but this was when I lived in Pennsylvania. So I think I entered it into an art show at the public library.
Did you get in?
Yeah, I got in, but it didn't. I don't think it won anything. I don't think. I mean, you don't write anything about it, and you don't explain anything about it. It just looks like a crazy doodle. But there's actually some context in the story there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and someone has this somewhere out there. They picked it up at Goodwill, and now they have it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know where that would be. Yeah. Anyways, we'll go on to the next one. So I'll end here. So this is titled "It's Just a Thought," which is another doodle with even less space in between each pen stroke. It's just a lot of detail.
Did you hand draw the brain?
No, I got that from clip art. Just clip art brain, and then there's an original somewhere out there. The original is framed and somewhere, but the brain is not in the original. I added the brain later. So
the original was it poster board with?
Yep, and actually there's nice acid-free paper, I think, so it's actually gonna last a while.
With what tool?
With a ballpoint pen.
So this entire thing is hand drawn. Nothing's repeated.
Right.
Like nothing was digitally.
No, nothing's repeated. This entire thing is completely hand drawn.
Are there any definite objects like buildings, or is it just lines?
No, it's all pretty much abstract. Yeah, I mean, it's just lines that go every which way. And again, it's the size of like a poster board that you'd make like a protest sign with, I guess, or whatever people do with those big poster boards or school project.
Well, how long did this one take?
I don't remember. At least a month.
Are there any numbers or letters in this one?
No, I don't think so.
Why did you add the brain?
Because I made a copy for my psychiatrist, and I gave it to her, and I put the brain on there to give it some like, and she put it up on her wall in her office.
Cool.
And so now when somebody comes into her office, they look at that and they talk about it in the context of being a psychiatrist's office. That's why I put the brain there.
That's really cool.
And then that's where the title came from. It's just a thought. So it's like the artwork is a type of thought, but the thought is not contained by the brain because it's in the middle of it. So,
right. It's not. It's coming out of the brain.
Yeah, or the context of the brain is within the thought. Like the brain thinking the thought, but the thought is not just inside the brain. It's both in and outside the brain.
And it's being shared.
Well, I don't know. We'll share it with you to looking at it, I suppose you'd be sharing it. And also, there's this concept of it's just a thought. Like, people put so much emphasis on thinking and their thoughts, often to their own detriment. And
including yourself.
Including myself, yeah. And so sometimes I need a reminder. It's just a thought. It doesn't really mean much. Or maybe it's not worthy of attention, or maybe it needs to be discarded, or maybe it needs to be paid more attention to. You know, these are all things we can do with our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you remember what you were thinking or feeling when you drew this?
How am I going to finish this awful, tedious process? It was like...
But why did you feel compelled?
I just...
You had to finish it.
The earlier piece, which was Experience Non-Quantifiable, I didn't get the attention I wanted from the first piece, so I upped the ante in detail to show people I was committed to doing this work, to show the story through art, the story of what I've been through, and where I am now and where I'm going.
You wanted your story to get across to the audience?
Yeah. But the funny thing is I never said anything or wrote anything. I just thought the art alone was enough. I thought if I just make it more detailed, people will start asking me, what does it mean? Or what doesn't it mean? Or what's it about? Or why are you doing it? You know, that sort of thing. But nobody really even asked me.
But this...
Well, I kind of learned that art is like harder to get people to pay attention to than I thought, which is interesting that you said thought. It's titled "It's Just a Thought." So.
But this piece was still reflecting on your time realm when you were 18 years old.
Yeah, just the tedium of like putting my life back together.
So the years after your episode at 18.
Yeah, it's like, you know, once you have an episode, then maybe you need to put your life back together. Which can be harder than even the episode.
Did you feel like you had control in making this art? So it was like, did you still feel that you needed to put some things back together when you were making this? And that was part of the process?
I just knew I had a story like that I wanted to share. And I thought if I made this piece of art and I made it intensely and detailed, that people would ask me why I did that. Because it's not like, why would you actually want to create a poster-sized board with tiny little marks everywhere on it? Like, what story are you trying to tell? Like, that was my take on it, but people look at it and they say that's interesting, or whatever goes on for them. I learned over time was completely personal and different. Like completely personal. Like it was more like a Rorschach test. And
what?
A Rorschach test, the one where you put ink blots on paper and then somebody looks at the ink blots and says that's a bunny or it's like looking at clouds. Two people could be looking at clouds and they could see, one person could see a giraffe and another person could see a hippopotamus, and it's like art is a lot more like that I learned, especially abstract type art, and so I actually embraced that from this point forward.
From today?
No, from that point forward. Let's see. Did I? Oh, no, I mean, as a concept I did. I don't know.
So this is what you wrote on May 31st, 2013.
Yeah, so here's what I wrote. Well, I don't know, I might have added this writing later on. But thoughts are just thoughts. As much as we might try to make them mean something, they're not great determinate forces. Some thoughts are useful and some thoughts are not. If we live from a place that is a way of being, we may rid ourselves from that which would so easily confuse us as to actually being who we actually are, the thought. So, in other words, not being, we are not our thoughts. Like, that was what I was trying to say. Do not attach meaning to this piece, especially if the meaning isn't useful. Live as if who you are cannot truly be represented in any thought. And that comes from the therapy I was doing at the time. Not sure I really relate to that these days, but at the time that's what I needed to hear, I guess. So I needed to write at that time. Yeah, but I published it 2013. I had a bunch of art in my apartment in Pennsylvania, and then I published it all. I signed up for DeviantArt, and I published it all on that day in 2013. And I remember being really self-conscious. Like, it was a big deal for me to put any of my art online.
This was the first time you put online?
Yeah. At least in a major way. I don't know if I did before that, but that was the first time it stands out in my mind.
When did you start doing art? What year?
Well, I actually started. But by the day I started publishing it. I mean, I started a couple years before this, so 2013, maybe 2010.
And you started as a therapeutic method?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a therapy. It's still a therapy. It's just it's really calming and soothing, and it gives me an outlet that I really enjoy. So here we have this really colorful purple, almost pink purple piece that I put into an art show. I think the second time I entered the Indian Valley Public Library art show in Pennsylvania, and I think I won first place.
Wow.
With this one. And I printed it out it's like 40 inches by something. It was big, and I framed it at a local frame shop.
Is this partly hand drawn?
Yeah, it's partly hand drawn. It's kind of an interesting process that I went through when I made it. Its title is non-conceptual, supposedly encapsulated. Goes with the idea that here, I'll just read what I wrote here. What can't be said conceptually cannot be contained. What cannot be contained is not a concept, and may be closer to who we are than who we would have ourselves try to believe. So it sounds kind of cryptic, I guess, but what can't be said conceptually cannot be contained. So I was trying to capture something that I couldn't capture in art, and then I was hoping that the people would experience something similar when they looked at it. I was trying to capture this feeling.
But what feeling was it?
It's just an intense creativity, an intense. It goes back to the experience when I was 18. I'm trying to capture that in an artwork, like losing your mind in a piece of art. Like, what would it be like to lose your mind like that? And the interesting thing about losing your mind is that, at least my experience was that it's not at all negative.
Right, this piece is very beautiful.
It's
right.
It's not all negative. There's a lot of experiences that I wouldn't trade that I had. Just like walking down the street and being in touch with nature in a way that I hadn't experienced ever before. Like this light shining through the leaves, but it being so intense that you would want to break down and like fall over, like just from how intense it was.
The feeling.
The feeling, yeah. Like the feelings were so intense during that time, and I wanted to capture that in this piece and say like, what is it like to encapsulate an experience like that?
Is this before you were aware that you were bipolar? Is this before you were on any medication?
Yeah.
So this is before you really knew what was going on in your brain chemistry.
Well, not when I made this piece of art.
But art captures a time.
It captures a time when I was not on any medication. I was not. Yeah.
You were not aware that your brain wasn't acting
normally. Yeah. I mean, I just thought I was on some sort of like whirlwind spiritual experience or something. I mean, that's as far as I understood it at that time.
But you said you don't regret feeling that way, but would you want to feel that way again?
No. No, it's too unstable. Be like,
stability is more important to you than elated.
If you were to seek an experience like this, you'd be kind of seeking something that's dangerous. It's not stable. But maybe you can witness it through the art while being stable and sort of appreciate that somebody did experience it at one point.
So you can get a part of the experience from viewing your art.
Yeah.
And you want your audience to feel part of what you felt.
If you tilt your head to the left while you're looking at it, you can kind of see one eye and like a chin and the nose.
Yeah.
And it's like a person looking at you sideways.
Oh yeah. Like a distorted face.
Yeah, like a distorted face, exactly.
So what does that represent? A distorted face, that is the unstableness?
That's someone looking at you from the past, and they're in this experience, which is enjoyable, but like